What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Legion of Orange Flyer show here on the RTB Philly Sports Network, presented by SeatGeek. I'm so surprised that I can get all that correct because I practiced it before I hit record. And I always mess it up, but for some reason, when the red light goes on, it works. I don't get it. I'm going to mess it up sometimes in front of y'all. But all right, so the NHL draft is over. And to say that it everything shook out the way I thought or that many people thought, you know, it would be a total fabrication. It would be a total lie. It did not go the way that I thought. Am I happy with the draft? Yes, I am. I think Danny Briere knew the needs of his organization. He listened to his scouts. I think, regardless of not being able to trade up into that 4 or 5, which was what was rumored for quite some time. I think he did everything super well. Some things get to me, there's GM speak all the time, and when certain people say things, I kind of that BS meter internally goes off, from being around it for so long, and not to, rain on the parade of Jett Luchanko, who we're going to talk about, momentarily here. But it just made me laugh at in that scrum with the media, with Danny Briere and everybody. And he said more than once that, Jett was our guy. And I said to myself, I mean, you did admit, and it was rumored a lot, that you tried to trade into that 4 or 5 spot, and I'm sure you weren't going to draft Jett Luchanko number 4 or number 5. So I think, maybe I'm grasping at straws here or splitting hairs, but I'm sure Jett was your guy if you had to keep that 12th overall pick, or eventually trading to 13. But let's not sit there and kind of blow all the smoke up there. You really tried. Briere and the Flyers tried to get to that 4 or 5 spot. I believe they wanted Demidov, maybe even Lindstrom, which would have been, terrific. That would have been a tremendous draft pick for the Flyers. But at the end of the day, the draft kind of fell into the favor of Danny B, Keith Jones, and the Flyers again for the second year in a row. Last year, Matvei Michkov could have went 2nd overall, 3rd overall, 4th overall. The Flyers, again, even last year, were heavily talked about as being a team that's going to trade. They want to trade up because of who they want. And it just didn't have to happen because the pieces, it was just falling back into the favor of the Flyers. And that's what happened with Michkov. And it seemed like last night, as certain, players were being drafted that were actually like surprising to a lot, that just meant, just like Michkov last year, the draft board was once again favoring the Flyers and what they wanted. The one, no bling bling hockey. Appreciate you leaving a comment. Man, I thought the Canadians had a great draft. Anyone who's a fan of the Habs should absolutely really be thrilled with that draft. I thought they were terrific. So great work on them. Hopefully that's a franchise that really is hopefully on the turnaround now. It's great for hockey when the Montreal Canadiens are doing well. Any Canadian team, if there's any Canadian team doing well, the NHL, it's great. I mean, just look at the ratings of Game 7 of the Stanley Cup. What was it, over 16 million people? I think it drew like 16.8 million people, which was higher. I believe it was higher. Was it then the last game of the NBA Finals and the World Series? So that's a pretty big deal. So that's really good. Oh yeah, you know what? I actually thought that would have been a move as well. But hey, look, you can't have everything, man. Relax, okay? But yeah, so let's going with the Flyers again. The draft board just fell in their favor, and they moved back one spot in the first round of the draft on Friday to draft, Jett Luchanko. He's a center from OHL's Guelph Storm, 13th overall. In that trade with the Minnesota Wild, which was very anticlimactic. It was the first trade of the night, and you had that big trade buzzer going off in that sphere, which, by the way, side note, and hopefully I remember to get back to where I was. That was probably the coolest draft atmosphere I've seen in my entire life. I'm 37 years old, and I haven't seen a more cool atmosphere, a more, aesthetically, and what you how that whole setup was. That was really cool. And I'm really happy that the NHL was able to, kind of like be a first for that. Just thought it was a real badass thing to be in that sphere. And I really hope, I hope that was something that the NHL does every year. But I guess that, like most leagues, they kind of go to different cities. But gosh, I would have it there every year. That's so neat. Just a great atmosphere. So yeah, getting back to what I said, there was an anticlimactic trade because you sit the entire time. The ESPN broadcast is wondering what's going on at the Flyers table. Nobody's getting up, and you could almost tell right away that there's a trade happening. So we didn't know. I personally thought maybe the Flyers are trading back like 4, 5, 6 spots, the way the draft was falling, and maybe they figured they could get their guy later on while acquiring more assets. I texted a couple of people and they said, no, it looks like they're moving back 1 or 2 spots. And then it ended up being 1 spot back with the Minnesota Wild. So I forget how to pronounce his name, but Z Buim. I think Buim, right? Is that correct? Whoever, if somebody is watching this and want to, like, how Wikipedia or, Hockey Reference sometimes shows you how to pronounce last names. Z Buim was the guy that he was there. He was ready to be drafted. I personally don't think the Flyers had an interest in him. For those who might not know, he does share agents with Ryan Johansson and Cutter Gauthier, the dynamic duo of nightmare situations inside the Flyers organization. So I'm assuming that played a part. Although he's a stud player. I mean, he's the kind of guy, he's going to make an immediate impact. But then it kind of it dropped back to the Flyers for 13. So I figured, all right, there goes Boehm. So he's out. You still have really good players. Luchanko obviously was there. A guy, Helenis was there. Yzerman was still there. And I just thought, oh, this is probably Helenis for sure. I know he was somebody the Flyers liked. Even an Yzerman, I thought Cole Yzerman was going to possibly go in that spot to the Flyers. The Flyers want a guy that could be a pure goal scorer. Helenis, again, is another guy who, he's electric. He's a really good playmaker, can score goals, can play that center position, can play it. And I thought Helenis was the pick. And then it came through, and it was Jett Luchanko. And I thought, well, one, it was pretty cool to come in there from Michael Buffer. And I looked up to and I'm looking around, and I'm thinking, Jett Luchanko. Like, I had him as somebody the Flyers could have had at the end of the first round, or if that's somebody they really valued, he's someone that you could maybe traded up from 32, 4 or 5 spots possibly to get a Luchanko and still get Helenis at 12. So the fact that didn't happen at the time, I was quite bothered with the fact that it was Luchanko and not Helenis. Still kind of butthurt about it, but it's irrelevant now. So I move on, and I did a lot more studying into Luchanko, and I looked at him. He's got the same build almost as Mike Richards. He's 5'11", 185. He's got much more speed than Richards did. I think he's as good right now of a playmaker. He's a playmaking pivot. He had 74 points in 64 games last season for the Storm, 20 goals, 54 assists. At the 2024 the U18 World Junior Championships, like over a month and a half ago, he had 7 points, 2 goals, 5 assists, was a plus 5 in 7 games when Canada took home the gold medal. He's very young. He doesn't turn 18 until August 21st. So you're looking at a guy that probably won't be up with the Flyers for, I mean, you're talking probably 3 years, and depending on his development, but he's a big body, like 5'11", 190. He's going to grow. He's still going to grow. He's going to obviously add, muscle to that frame. And I think I really think Jett Luchanko is going to end up being a really, really good player for this Flyers team moving forward. But it was just odd because you had, Consta Helenis, he went off the board the very next pick. If you look at most of reputable draft boards and mock drafts, Helenis was as high as number 6 on guys like Craig Button's list. He was a third-ranked European skater by NHL Central Scouting. But man, they clearly, the Flyers were clearly in on Luchanko. He came in with a ton of upside. He's only, like I said, only 17. He's a center, which the Flyers desperately need centers. So by the time Luchanko is ready to be a Flyer, that he's probably gonna be at a prime spot to be, I'm not saying first line center, but at his age, a second or third line center, logging quality minutes. The center's at the thinnest area in the entire organization. Morgan Frost is the only first round center the Flyers have taken over the last 11 years. That's currently on the roster. So it's a position of need. It's a position the Flyers have kind of ignored for quite a long time. So he's gonna have a chance to give the Flyers a lift down the middle in that rebuild. The Flyers have wanted to identify and develop high-end centers to play alongside Matvei Michkov, who's now their tippy top prospect, maybe even their most talented player on the roster. And Luchanko's going to be that guy, or he's going to be developed into that guy. The plan is, I'm sure, you don't draft him 12th overall ahead of other pretty stud players, to not have a plan in place for Luchanko to be probably that first line, second line center in the next 4 to 5 years. Like I said, he'll probably come into the league with the Flyers as a third line center. And then eventually I think that talent's going to take over. And I'm saying this because I don't have a crystal ball on the kind of acquisitions, trades, free agencies, or what have you that the Flyers are going to do over the next year or two. They're not going to sign any big free agents this offseason. They don't have any money. They just bought out Cam Atkinson. So, thank you for whatever, the things that you did, Cam, and, we wish you the best in your future endeavors. But you just bought out Cam Atkinson. After this season, Cal Pedersen's $5 million comes off the books. So, like it's always been said, 2025 is where the Flyers are really going to be active, whether trade market, free agency. That's why I feel the Flyers are going to legitimately take a step back in 2024-25 than we probably had hoped, seeing how much they overachieved this past season. But I think this offseason is all about figuring out these young guys before you have all that money to go out and get superstar or superstars, and to clear some money up. I mean, the Flyers have a lot of roster decisions to make throughout the course of the next year. We all know that Morgan Frost was mentioned a lot in some trade discussions Friday and today, but nothing of high interest for Danny Briere to pull a trigger on. So, but look, those names are out there. The Joel Farabee's name. This is just the beginning of the NHL offseason, ladies and gents. Like the NHL draft is just the beginning. There's going to be a lot of trades and a lot of news happening over the next few months here in the summer. But to kind of round out, to talk about the rest of the draft picks here, for the Flyers, 32nd overall, they traded to the Edmonton Oilers for a future first-round draft pick that will be in either 25 or 26. So that was, I thought, a really good move in that moment for the Flyers. Then today, Saturday, 36th overall. Again, that was a pick that was kept by the Columbus Blue Jackets. So that pushes this opportunity for a second rounder to next year. So the Columbus Blue Jackets elected to keep the pick on the conditions set by last summer's Ivan Provorov trade. The Flyers will be getting a second round pick from Columbus next year instead. And then 51st overall, which is the second pick that the Flyers were able to make was for Jack Berglund. He's a big boy. So a big boy, 6'4", 210. He can move. He's a big center who can control and protect the puck. He was the 28th ranked international skater by NHL Central Scouting. Posted 34-point campaign, 15 goals, 19 assists in the Swedish juniors last season, and put a 5-point performance in 7 international games for his country at the U18 Worlds. The dude's 18. He's 6'4", 210. I can't even begin to tell you the envy I have of this dude, of this kid. So going into that 59th overall, the Flyers sent their 77th overall pick in the third and the 2025 third rounder they got from Minnesota on Friday night. They used those 2 picks to move up here to 59 to take Spencer Gill, a defenseman out of the QMJHL. He's a right-handed defenseman, which the Flyers just have a thing now for right-handed defensemen. They just keep getting them. They need a left-handed shot defenseman bad in their system. Look, he's 6'4", right? But he ain't 210. He's 6'4", 186 pounds. He's a petite big dude, if that makes any sense, right? He's going to grow into that frame. It's going to happen, especially as a defenseman who they like the idea of getting more physical. He'll jump in on the rushes. He'll give your team's offense. In 65 games this past season, he had 12 goals, 34 assists for 46 points and a +8 rating. He was a 29th ranked North American skater by Central Scouting. He's going to bring size into that pipeline, man. The Flyers said, Denny Briere said, they're putting an emphasis on getting big defensemen. Well, look, 6'4", 186. I'm sure by the time he's a Flyer, he'll be 6'4", 210, 215. So that's significant size. 107th overall, which was in the fourth round. I'm sorry for the name. I haven't had a chance to hear his name called, but it was a Heikki Ruohonen. He's a center. The Flyers made that pick at 107. They traded picks 150 and 177 to the Calgary Flames for this pick. And they got a Finnish center. Not bad, man. 20 goals, 27 assists in 47 junior games this past season. And then he had 3 more goals for Finland at the U18 Worlds. He's 6'1". He's a left-handed shooter. He's expected to head over to North America to play at Harvard over the next few years. So that's good. So he'll be around. 148th overall, coming from the Vegas Golden Knights. Noah Powell, who is somebody I really thought would have gone higher than 148th overall. He's a right winger out of the USHL. He's a big power forward, man. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds. And again, this continues the trend on this weekend of the Flyers drafting size. In 61 games last season, he had 43 goals and 74 points with a +18 rating. And he's playing college hockey, committed to go over to Ohio State. So look, that's what I thought. I thought Noah Powell was, a top 60 player. I really did. I mean, 6 foot, 200 pounds got me right away. He's got some really good size. He's fast. He can move. And the dude can flat out score goals. Again, 43 goals in 60 games. Sign me up for that, for later on for this team. 173rd overall, Ilya Potov, right winger out of the MHL. So again, they go back into that Russian prospect pool. He's a good player. I mean, from what I see, again, they're all kids. They're not developed from an NHL standpoint yet, but from what I saw on tape, a good player. He's fast. He's a little undersized at 5'10", 165, but he did put up 15 goals and 30 assists in 46 Russian junior games this past season. He did say he is going to return to his junior club in 24-25. 205 overall. Austin Moline, a defenseman. Again, a right-handed shooting defenseman, but he's big. out of St. Mary's, Shattuck St. Mary's High School. He's 6'4". He's a big boy, man. 18-year-old, 35-point season. He's going to go play. I believe he's playing college. I think it was Northern Michigan, if I remember correctly. He has to develop a lot. He's a Las Vegas native, which was, pretty cool. But look, it was a final pick of, 205th. That's probably a guy we might not ever see. But nonetheless, those are the draft picks this year for the Philadelphia Flyers. I just wanted to come on here and kind of talk about that a little bit. I didn't get a chance to do a show for when Michkov was coming over, but I would like to remind everybody, if you go look at the show before Michkov came over, I did kind of say that I believe there's a 99% chance Michkov will play for the Flyers in 2024. And it's now a reality. It is so exciting to be a Philadelphia Flyers fan. And, it's only June. It's June 29th. I mean, we're a couple days away from July, but nonetheless, it's the beginning of the summer. I still believe there are a lot more moves are going to be made from a Flyer standpoint, from what I'm told, and from people that I talk to, is that the draft isn't going to end the phone calls and the text messages for Briere and Keith Jones and company. They're looking to make some impacts, whether it's for a year from now, 2 years from now. Another great thing that came out of this draft is the Flyers added assets. And what's so good about that is people might think, oh, they're going to make a ton of draft picks next year. I mean, when you have 3 first-round draft picks or, 3 second-rounders, 3 thirds, that is setting you up very nicely to possibly make a trade and acquire a superstar, if not 2. Or next year's draft class is extremely deep with a lot of talent in all facets of the game. That's your opportunity to maybe use, again, some of that draft capital if you want to move up higher in the draft. It's great to have those bullets in the chamber. And right now, I place, complete trust in Danny Briere and Keith Jones and company. With you put more bullets in their chambers. They know when to fire them, and they're going to hit that target, and they're doing very well. I think Jett Luchanko is going to be spectacular for the Philadelphia Flyers. And I think he's only going to get better. Again, he doesn't turn 18 until late August. Was he on my draft board? No. Not for the top 12. I mean, top 30. Yes. Jett came in like right around that 24, 25, which is, I was talking to somebody about this. What I think the Flyers absolutely could have done is, I hate fantasy booking, but what they could have done is draft Helenius at 12, or Cole Eiserman at 12, either guy, that's fine. And then you use that pick 32 and something and other stuff, whether it's a player or other picks, and you bump up to 26th, 27th, and then you can get Luchanko as well. So then you end your day with Helenius or Eiserman and Jett Luchanko, and you're talking about probably the best team draft of the day at that point, outside of, Montreal, or the Sharks had a really good draft, as well, getting those 2 picks, the Blackhawks too. So, but overall, I do give the Flyers, overall, I'm going to go, I think it's a B. I can't go any higher than a B. I really like Luchanko. I don't like the nonstop acquiring of right-hand shot defensemen. I think the Flyers are pretty right-handed heavy from a defensive standpoint. If I'm getting that mixed up, then I'm going to be pissed off, because I'm pretty sure they're pretty right-handed heavy. But, I think Jett Luchanko is a great pick. I think it's going to end up being a, terrific selection in 3 years when he's up here playing with Michkov, and those two are tearing it up along with whatever else they have there. But I was really happy. I do like Spencer Gill. I really do. I think he's going to grow into be a beast. And then what's his name? I can't believe I just forgot his name. I'm sorry, Noah Powell, of course. Getting him at 148th overall, I'm telling you this right now, it's going to be considered a mega steal. So getting Noah Powell that late in the draft, spectacular move just to be able to get up to that point, and get him into your organization. So look out for that guy in a couple of years as well. But that wraps it up. I'm going to have a show here next week. We're going to have a full house. We're going to talk about Michkov coming over, what the offseason is going to look like. I'm going to try to get Bill Meltzer on, Jason Martinez, and obviously, some of my co-hosts are going to be on here to talk a lot about Flyers hockey coming up here on the RTB Philly Sports Network. Tomorrow night, a brand new Ring the Bell Philly show will be streaming here live. So excited for that. If you guys head over to SeatGeek.com, day one sponsors of this show, this whole entire network, head over to SeatGeek.com right now. Use our code RINGTHEBELL for $20 off your very first ticket purchase. Again, thank you guys so very much for joining me here for this quick show. I say quick. It's been 26 minutes of me blabbering here for a while. But we're going to have a full show for you during the week. So look out for that. I'll let you all know. Thank you to so many people over the past month. We're up over 3,300 subscribers now. I'm so grateful from the bottom of my heart. Again, Jason Kent and I, the VP of this whole thing, we said we'd do this with 100 subscribers. We would keep doing this all the time with 50. The fact that we're over 3,300 is I credit everybody else, and then I credit everybody, watching and subscribing. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for notifications when we're going to be streaming live or when we post a new show. Football season is going to start coming back around. So the Gangrene Eagle show, we have plans for that as well coming up to get more consistent with that. It's just really tough. It's June, so not a lot is happening, but training camp starts at the end of July, so we're going to be ready to roll very soon. Of course, Ring the Bell is every single week, and this show is probably going to be a bi-weekly show unless something happens, a trade, a signing, anything like that, or an interview, then we'll come on here. But mostly for now, until camp for the Flyers, the Legion of Orange is going to be a bi-weekly show. Phillies is every week. The Eagles is going to be probably every week once things really start amping up in terms of the beginning of training camp and whatnot. So thank you guys so very much for tuning in. Again, ring the bell 856 on YouTube, or just type in Ring the Bell Philly show, and it'll take you right to our page there. Again, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications when we're coming on here again. Thank you guys so very much, and I'll catch you guys down the road. Have a great one. Bye-bye.